Hello and welcome to another episode of The Kickout, the final word in professional wrestling. I am your host and one half of the for frequency's sake tag team champions of the world, the Wizard CZ. Joining me as always, my partner, Never Wrong, Nick Bull. Never Wrong, how are you today, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great. We're coming at you here midweek. We're glad you're here with us on The Kickout. I know we were talking before we went on air about how much fun we had on the last episode of Card Subject to Change with the Barker of the Bazaar, Rika Wildey. That was a unique, different episode, but we're back here on The Kickout, the final word in wrestling, and we're going to sit here and break down a little something for you. What do you got for us, CZ?
Well, before we break it down, I just want to remind everybody you can go back and rewatch that Rika Wildey episode on YouTube, or you can listen to the audio on all audio platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and et cetera, and so on. But today, Nick, something recent in the last week or so has really got me
in a tizzy.
Yeah, well, that's we'll put it that way. And I want to talk. What triggered this topic is the announcement that at the beginning of the year, SmackDown for several months will be going to 3 hours. So I'm going to talk about show lengths. I'm on the fence. I mean, Raw has been 3 hours for over
quite
a
while now. Quite a while
decade,
now.
I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's switching to 2 hours until the end of the year, starting in October. I'm on the fence as to whether I like this or not, and I'll tell you why. I don't want to sit through 3 hours of weekly wrestling, week in and week out, on two different shows. But if it gives the opportunity to showcase more talent, give people we don't see all the time a chance to be on TV, at the same time, I'm for it. Does that make sense?
Sure it does. And you hope at the end of the day, the bottom line factor of all this is more people will be getting exposure on TV. It's still hard for me to watch Raw on Monday nights. A, it's 3 hours, and B, in football season now, I'm in a steady back and forth flip. I'm going to be honest here. I host a wrestling podcast, but hey, it's football season. And I'll flip back and forth between the shows on Monday nights. 3 hours to me is hard to commit to a show, not once, but now twice a week. I don't know how long they're going to be 3 hours each, but to me, that's hard. That's why I like NXT so much on Tuesday nights. It's a fast 2 hours. That's why I like Dynamite on Wednesday nights. It's 2 hours. That's why I like SmackDown on Friday nights. It's 2 hours. You're asking wrestling fans. Wrestling's great right now, but I think we can admit there's an oversaturation of it at times with how much there is, and you're adding another hour to people's plates. When I saw that news, I was not a big fan of it because I've always thought SmackDown kind of has the edge over Raw right now because of its length. You can invest 2 hours and still not feel like you lost your whole night, and it doesn't feel like a chore like 3 hours does at times on Raw. Not complaining, just saying I would rather have the shorter show myself. It allows me to have other time for other things, and if there's time at the end of the day to watch other wrestling, I'll find something else to watch. But having 2 3 hour shows is tough for me. It's tough.
Now, of course, for me, who it's eat, sleep, wrestling, repeat.
Right.
When I'm not working, I do have my shoot job that takes precedence. But right now I'm going through a rewatch of older NXT shows. Those are at most an hour on Peacock, which I love going back and watching these guys who are stars now, up and coming. But the show length, the same can be said for premium live events or pay-per-views. One of my absolute biggest gripes with AEW, I enjoy their product. We poo-poo on AEW all the time, but they don't have a bad product. They may have some people that we don't care for. Not going to name any names, Jack Perry. But one of my biggest qualms with Tony Khan and AEW is his pay-per-view lengths. WWE has the absolute perfect format right now with 5 or 6 matches, 3 hours or less, maybe a little more depending on the show. But AEW is consistently 4 to 5 hours long. And when we're not in football season, it's on a Sunday night when I got to get up and work the next morning. Sorry, Tony, I don't want to sit through that long of a show that late at night when I got to get up early.
Right. And we're starting to become big fans of the Saturday pay-per-views, right? Because that means we can watch it and then have plenty of time to discuss it. Pay-per-views or premium live events on Sunday. We were spoiled growing up during the WCW run, during WWE's run. Pay-per-views would be $245, $250, and you were done. And WrestleMania was 4 hours, and that was the one show a year that went 4 hours. And
with good reason.
With good reason. I understand why WrestleMania is 2 nights now. I get it. It's money.
Yes.
I get it. And it's never going back to one night. I get it. Okay. And I know why shows go from 2 hours to 3 hours. I get it. It's money, and it probably won't go back. But you have to address the time thing at some point. And I think Triple H and WWE are knocking things out of the park right now with this 5 or 6 match PLE.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the regular PLEs. I'm not talking about your mega shows like Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, WrestleMania. I'm fine if those are a little longer, as they should be. Rumble's got so much going on. It kicks off the road to WrestleMania. WrestleMania is self-explanatory. It should be big and have a lot of time. And SummerSlam's the second biggest show of the year. So I think it should be considered with those other two for being a longer time. But every other PLE for WWE I'm talking about right now, it's fine for that to be at that 3 hour mark or less. People love it. People love it. And especially on these Saturdays when they're doing shows across the world, it's like a Saturday afternoon show. You got the rest of your day. And I think the more we've had of that, the more we like it. And I hope that doesn't go away. Now, with Tony Khan on his side of things in AEW, I feel they go long because they're trying to get a lot on their card, which is fine. But at some time, you got to be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, this is a little too much. Maybe we need to cut it down a little bit. And
absolutely.
I think they're doing a better job of it. I know I went to All Out in Chicago a couple weeks back, and that's one of their bigger shows of the year. And it was a little over 4. And I know being there live is so much different than watching it at home. But to me, that it flew by. Like, it went really fast. I don't know. I haven't been able to watch a replay of the pay-per-view yet to tell you if I feel the same. But I know being in that arena that night, it feels like it went fast. So I think if you're there, you probably have a different opinion. If you're at home, of course, more often than not, you're going to be at home instead of going to every one of these PLEs for either company. You have this ideal time in mind, and you want to stay there because we're busy, right? We have things going on in our lives, and not to say that wrestling's not important and we don't enjoy it, but if you're going 4.5, 5 hours on a non-major pay-per-view, it's just kind of like, I don't know, it takes a little bit of the fun away, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. And so if AEW would go with the format where they have these special shows intermixed, like, for example, the upcoming tonight as this is airing, Grand Slam.
Yep.
From Arthur Ashe Stadium. If you have those specialty televised show mixed in and lessen your pay-per-views, I think that makes the pay-per-views mean more.
I would agree fully. And I think why people are so excited about this, this Grand Slam, it's going to be, airing later tonight, is 6 matches. You've got some big stipulations on some of them. Some big time storylines are involved. You're seeing Nigel McGuinness come back and wrestle a full match against the clam digger Bryan Danielson. You got Darby Allin, you got Mox. I mean, it's going to have that big show feel, and it's going to be at 2 hours or a little over. I can see them going into the 9 o'clock hour a little bit. And at the end of it, you're not going to be thinking like, and this went on too long. It's just that perfect length. And I think if they could start reeling in their bigger shows a little bit, reeling in their regular pay-per-views a little bit, people wouldn't be as harsh on the length and the time. And, I think WWE has it down. That's why I love NXT and SmackDown. They're shorter. And more often than not, a lot of times I'm missing that first hour of Raw due to work or other things. And then you can catch everything else in the last 2 hours. So I hope the 3 hour move to SmackDown doesn't hurt them, but I understand why they're doing it.
And from everything I've read, it is only temporary. It's just for the first 6 months of the first six. It's for half of the year, from what I've read. We'll see. I agree. I hope it doesn't hurt them. I hope it helps showcase more talent. Let's get DIY out there a little more often. I know they were featured this last
Right.
week on SmackDown.
Right.
But there are other names that I can throw out there.
There are so many people on the WWE roster between the Raw and SmackDown shows and, of course, NXT. You hopefully this time is used well. It's crafted to where they're pushing younger talent. That's what I hope here. And excited to see SmackDown on USA. We haven't seen that in quite some time. Excited to see NXT move to CW. How's that production going to be? How's it going to be different from the previous show on USA? A lot of interesting things going on here with all these different wrestling shows and all the different time links they have. So if you're a wrestling fan, this is a great time to be a wrestling fan. If you like a lot of wrestling, this is a great time to be a wrestling fan. If you like your wrestling in small dosages, this is a great time to be a wrestling fan. And yes. I think we're kind of at the precipice of unknown times when we've got two thriving companies in WWE and AEW. You can throw TNA in there. TNA has been on a pretty good run lately. If anybody's watching their stuff, they've got some good stuff out there. Just enjoy it. Enjoy that we have all this wrestling. If the longer shows aren't for you, sit them out. DVR them, fast forward through the parts you don't want. But yeah, I love this amount of wrestling we have right now. And sometimes too much can be too much. But I think I found the happy medium of watching what I want to watch and not getting burned out.
I completely agree. That being said, Nick, I'm going to let you wrap things up. But before I do, I want to talk about our next guest coming up this Sunday.
Yes, go ahead and talk. Yes, what is in store? I'm going to take you behind the curtain here. What is in store for the next episode of Card Subject to Change?
So we are talking Saints and Heretics. That's the name of the episode. We will be joined in studio by the heretic himself, one Damian Saint. If you remember when we did our podcast pre-show podcast party at Absolute Pro Wrestling a while back, he was one of the guests that we had. We're looking forward to a long format interview with him. And do we want to? I know we made the announcement last Saturday. Do we want to talk about APW while we're here too, Nick?
That's up to you. That is totally up to you, my friend.
I mean, I know we're doing a second pre-show podcast party up in Waterloo, Iowa with Absolute Pro Wrestling. They're having two big cage matches on October 12th. We'll be there. I'll be there in presence. We're still working out the kinks on that, so stay tuned. And we'll be announcing other guests. We've already announced that Brandon the Shank Eubanks will be joining us on that show. Stay tuned to socials for other announcements coming up.
Absolutely. Damian Saint on the next episode of Card Subject to Change. Hit us up on our socials. Let us know you like what you're hearing here, or there's a future topic you would like us to discuss. Send it forward. Let us know. Bring it before the Wiz and myself, and we'll see if it becomes a topic here on the Kickout. But until next time, For the Wizard CZ, I am never wrong, Nick Bull. This has been the Kickout, the final word in wrestling.